Good morning, folks.
Happy
Good
Thursday.
day.
How's everyone's December going so far? Racing past too fast for everybody? Feel like I'm going to blink and it's going to be the end of the year. All right, nobody that has been commenting or working on some of these issues that I listed in here, PRs, has showed up yet. We're just going to make this awkward if no one shows up that I've got outstanding questions back and forth with. But it is 5 after, so I guess in interest of everybody's time, we can at least get something started here. I'll even share. Windows moved open again. 1 second. Okay. So the first thing on the agenda, we chatted about a bit last week, but just remind the FYI on this one that the FreeBSD working group is looking to get started. So I think Sam was running with a lot of that one, but looks like there is a fair bit of interest in people participating. And then I think they've got a handful of owners in there. So let's see, 4 different owners. I'm not sure if that's something we want to go with in the future in terms of fewer owners, more participants. It might make it a little bit easier to keep things organized and make it more clear there are people that need to be resolving PRs and whatnot. When we make everybody an owner, it gets a little confusing. Yeah, if anybody's interested in that one, it is open. The PR is open. Make sure to chime in over there. Any questions on that little quick announcement before we're moving on to the next one? Okay. Get this moved over. I don't see Derek here, or Mike, or Steve-O. But I did want to find out what the current progress is on this one. I don't think we've had any updates in here. Yeah, no updates. So if they show up later on, we can come back to this. I'm guessing this is what a lot of people here are for, is looking for updates on this, right? Okay. I'll take at least a couple of thumbs up. Y'all are being quiet, but I'll take the virtual thumbs up. Okay. And until we get someone over there to show up, I do have a few others that have been sitting in the backlog for a little bit, so I figure I'll mention those. It refers on the missing manifest. We've got some language in the spec that was included there, thought might be helpful, and I suspect at this point is just no longer helpful. So let me find the language first. The term over here that we had in the spec was saying, yeah, there we go. Thumbs up for all decisions. I like that. The phrasing in the spec that we put in there was that if a manifest with the digest doesn't exist, that a registry could return the empty manifest list until such time in the future that the manifest was pushed. I don't think this helps anybody from all of our discussions back and forth. And so if it's not giving anybody any value, it's definitely hurting some use cases that we've got out there where people want to be able to push an artifact to a repo where the registry might accept it. And depending on whether or not we sort out whether the registry will accept it, if the registry accepted it, it would be good to know that that response to refers API will have that content in there. So this is eliminating a scenario that I don't think anybody is asking for. Folks have questions about what this means, what the implication of that is?
I don't know if I necessarily care about 569, but what does removing 570 mean? Does that mean that if you push a reference manifest before you push the subject, that it might not show up in the refers list?
So the way this was phrased was that you could push the signature first, and if you queried the digest for that signature, it wouldn't show up in the response, or the registry had the option of not showing that signature in the response until you finally push the manifest. In this case, we're just going to say, look, if you're going to accept the signature, it needs to be in the response. There's no in-between area here.
Okay. Got it. So 570 is true because of other things still.
It was true by default already. We're just eliminating the language because it applied to 569.
That makes sense to me.
I was hoping the other Mike Brown would be here because he was the one person that had a comment on this, but
always the second favorite Mike Brown.
I mean, you're my favorite because you're giving me thumbs up on all this stuff. The other Mike Brown isn't my favorite. He keeps picking on all my PRs and giving comments and blocking everything. I still like you both. So when I pulled that out, I threw in a test just to make sure that it worked in the conformance test. So there are a few pieces for that in there. And when I push the content up that way. So a little bit of that going back into the repository. And then Mike had a question about, hey, why are you doing this big skip if everything? And that was all our test all had that skip at the top for all the refers. So if we need to get something more granular, we can do that in the future. Any other questions, comments, or concerns on this one? And like I say, Michael, I like you better because you're not the one throwing up the change request on everything. All right.
I'll pretend to be the other Mike Brown for today.
What's that?
I said I'll pretend to be the other Mike Brown for today.
There we go.
In the minutes, Mike Brown.
There we go. Mike approved everything.
Mike approved.
See, I'm telling you, he commented on every one of my things. So this other one, the OCI refers header, this is the one that we added where there was an issue, went back and forth of, should we have this? And the conclusion of the issue was that we might want to come back with some kind of link header that's the registry says, if you query a manifest, here's a link, the refers are over there if you want those later on. And that was optional for the registries to do if they wanted to. And then we also said if registries wanted to, they could include this special header in there. Where do I have it? OCI refers absent. And if a registry wants to, and this was a may, this was not a must. So the registry may include it. And if clients see it, they can then go ahead and act on it. That this was just an extra bit of feedback from registries that says, I know you just pulled that manifest. Don't even bother trying to pull the refers because they just don't exist, at least at this time. They might exist in the future, but when you pull that manifest, they don't exist. So it was an extra little performance improvement there for clients. This was all under terms of may do this, may do that. So if registries don't want to do it, and I expect a lot of registries will not do it in the very beginning. So again, may include. I expect a lot of registries won't do it on day one, but if they realize that there's a whole lot of API requests hitting the refers API in the future, they might decide to add this for their side and hope that the clients will leverage that. So a couple lines, I think the other Mike was adding a bunch of questions about, well, what about a present header? And the present header really doesn't make sense for this because if you're a client that wants refers, you're going to query the refers whether or not the header is there because the registry may not include it. And so if it's not there, or if the header says it's present and you're looking for refers, your response is the same either way. The thing you really want is potentially a link header that says, go over to the CDN direct URL and get it that way.
That being said, I think because we discussed this, oh God, I think 4 months ago, maybe, Brandon.
This been sit out for a while.
I seem to recall we did talk about the present being advantageous because you could use it to determine whether or not the refers API was present when making, assuming I'm starting from completely cold, making requests to a registry, I might be able to make fewer requests if there was a present header.
Yeah. It is the case where you have one of these. What was that, Mike?
It still wouldn't be required.
It is not required. And that's an important thing to keep in mind.
It's never going to save you. It won't help you discover whether the registry supports reference types.
Correct. Yeah. The advantage here is if I'm pulling an image and I'm going to pull the signature immediately afterwards, this could be an extra bit of data that says, don't even bother hitting that extra API request. You can save your runtime a little bit of overhead. This thing isn't signed. At least not from refers. Similarly, for me, every time I do a fully recursive copy, I copy every manifest and all the refers to those manifests. There's a refers API for everything there. When I get to the bottom of that tree, that would cut off all those last refer APIs. But yeah, the advantage here is this 4A scenario where if I query a registry and it has that absent header, I say, hey, there are no refers. I see the absent header, so I just skip. This is the one use case in here that is going to make efficient.
Yeah, I'm still in the we don't really need this camp, but I have no objections to a May, I guess.
I'm hoping that because the May, it's one of these that a registry can give that hint, clients can follow it, and in the future, if you decide that you want it, you can turn it on. Until then, you're not obligated to do anything.
I don't know. Rather focus on getting what we have released.
You want this solved. I think we all want this one solved. I was just tying up all the loose ends with a couple of these other issues. Pagination was the other one over here, and John is not here either. So that was the other person I was looking for. But he has this PR out here. It has a bunch of changes. Some of the stuff he deleted, I understand why he deleted it. He was just flipping over to the completely different definition, but because people have implemented this definition, I want to make sure that we don't break any of their use cases by doing that, at least badly break. I understand there's going to be some breakage, but minimizing as best I can. But if you haven't seen that one, that is sitting out there. He put it together last week during the call. So 496 is another good one to review.
Is this one strictly just putting things back that were accidentally or accidentally removed, or is there new requirements being added here?
I have a hard time saying accidentally removed because I wasn't there at the time. So I don't know the context about why it was removed back in the day. But
it's just putting back things that were removed for whatever reason.
Yeah. This restores language. So I'm not sure the full context of how it got taken out, but I get the impression from John's comments that he just went back to the old version of the spec and pulled a bunch of language in and undid a commit or something.
So it was the whole commit that reorganized the distribution spec is where it disappeared. Yeah, and John linked to the commit there that has the original version of the language immediately before said reorganization commit.
Yeah. But the high level question is that I have is still, is this strictly putting things back, or is there new requirements that are being added to? Like, is this just reverting the removal?
The way this is phrased today is that registries should implement pagination using the link header. And so I think he took out a bunch of the language around the last query header. I don't know if he even has that defined in here anymore. I mean, it says without the parameter, but doesn't say how to use it. So it may be putting a requirement on registries that they must implement the link header. But I'm not positive. It says should.
Yeah, seems like may or should for these.
Yeah. But it does kind of steer clients to not even implementing the last header, as best I can tell.
I remember
the
last time was some registries, I think ECR being one of them, will return an error if you request more results than we support. Instead of, and this changes the spec to say that registries should just return the max results that they can and not an error. So if you ask for like 200 and we support 100, just return 100.
Yeah. And that's one of those cases where this version says you need to do the pagination with link header. My version said you need to give an error code.
Yeah.
And depending on what version of the spec clients implement, if clients implement the 1.0 spec, they're going to assume they got everything because you gave them less than 200. And so they're just going to stop on that first request without doing any of the link headers.
Right.
And new clients will be more efficient.
Yeah,
So-
it seems like clients are gonna. It seems like this is having both behaviors is gonna cause a lot of issues. Right? If you're assuming, either you assume if you get less than n results that you're done, or you assume if you get less than n results that you actually got n, and then you just request n+1.
And this is why it is a breaking change. Is this one we want to solve by thumbs up too? I have a feeling this will be a little more troublesome. Yeah, some folks need some time to just keep reading over that one and get back PR responses. We've got both of these out there. Mine is not breaking, but it doesn't include the link header. John's is breaking, but the link header is a nice efficiency in there. Pros and cons to each. All right, I still don't see Mike, John, or Derek. So all of my other content here, I had got nothing. Is there anything else thrown on the agenda that we want to talk about today? Or things that we can solve on our own?
We ever thought about enabling AI companion on our Zoom calls to get auto-generated summaries?
Try to keep track of notes in the presentation. That would be interesting, throwing an extra little thing. I think some people at least turn on the automatic captions.
I
And
tried to click
then-
AI companion, but needs to be an admin.
I mean, I might be able to do that on my side, but I think the captions are kind of nice if people are trying to go back and find certain text, and those I think get included in the recording. So that I could pull those out when I pull the recordings up on YouTube and put those in the notes if people are really interested. At the very least, if we have a whole lot of chats, sometimes I'll pull those out. Put that in the notes. I know one of the comments last time on the missing subject debate thing that we're working on was that there was supposed to be a working session put together. Has anybody heard anything on any working session?
Nope.
Oh, okay. So I actually, maybe I should just ask for a little clarification here, because I missed last week's call, but Jesse Butler was telling me about it in person. So do I understand that we're actually trying to reconvene the working group?
No.
I think
Okay.
not that.
Only the
That's why I wanted to ask, because
Specifically
that's
avoid
kind of
the
how
appearance
Jesse
of-
summarized it to me, but I wanted to, okay, yeah. What are we
Yeah,
actually
let's not do
doing?
that. Mike, do you want to take it or should I take it?
Let me take. I can take it. I think the idea was that Derek has, I think, some ideas that he wants to kind of sketch out and dive into, and maybe would take longer than a call, or would take up the entire call, and so he was saying maybe we could have a focused session to just dive into that. But I don't
Okay,
think-
so something more equivalent to like what we did with Brandon, but online and with the full set of interested parties, instead of, well, I guess at the time there were only 3 of us who were really interested in this, but now everybody's more deeply invested given it's dragged on so long.
There were probably more people that are interested. They just weren't at DockerCon. And now that we've gotten past the point of, hey, we've had votes, we don't have the 2/3 on the vote, but we do have a majority that are leaning towards trying to allow the push of manifests with a missing subject field. That Derek has said he'll go back and work things on his side. And so apparently he's got stuff in work. And so there's going to be hopefully a working session to discuss that between people before just presenting it whenever he's able to finish it.
Gotcha.
But yeah, none of us know what's coming down the pipe on that. All right, we got almost 30 minutes left here. Does anybody else have stuff you want to chat about today? Sadly, I don't think we have enough to do a maintainer vote and just release this thing as is. All right. That's a bit of an uncomfortable silence there, I think, long enough. So going once, going twice. Otherwise, I'll give you back 30 minutes of the day.
Thank you.
Thanks, folks.
Thanks all.